of snow. It's snowing heavily.
Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current local conditions. The regional forecast. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Current local radar showing any precipitation in your area. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.
You're watching the Weather Channel. Accurate and dependable forecasts you can always turn to. And when you're away from your television, the Weather Channel forecast is also available from the following.
Dichotomy in the weather. First, in the west, it's quiet. For the most part, we do have a front coming toward the coast, but it has been quiet. But to the east, it is a mess. Now, things are quieting down for the big cities along the east coast. Even in Boston, the snow has come to an end. But look at this low pressure area continuing to deepen, now down to maybe around 970 millibars, and the winds continue to whip around it with, well, to the east, rain, to the west, snow, and the snow has been widespread from Pittsburgh up through New York and into Boston, where this is what it looked like earlier today in the Boston metropolitan area. 5 to 6 inches of snow fell, and then late this afternoon, it changed over to rain as some warmer air came in, rain and freezing rain, and tonight we have just a little light drizzle, and the snow is kind of slushy out there in the Boston metropolitan area. But hey, finally, if you like snow, we got some snow today. But the snow continues to come down in other areas, and you can see the widespread areas of white, and the brighter white indicates the heavier snowfall, and some of that snow has been heavy from Washington to Baltimore, Philly. That snow occurred mostly earlier today. To New York City, 11 inches of snow. Princeton, 16, and up in Fairfield, right here in New York, 20 inches of snow has fallen. The snow continues to come down. It seems to be tapering off somewhat, and I can show you that a little bit better as we look at the latest radar. Again, here's the low pressure area. So the moisture's coming in, wrapping around, and then as we head farther away from the low pressure area, the northwesterly flow, streamers we call them, lake effect snow as the moisture is picked up by the wind as it flows over the unfrozen lakes, and then as we head downstream, the air is lifted and streamers of heavy, heavy snow come into play. And that's going to continue, in some cases, very heavy snow. Here's what it looks like north of Boston up to the north. Burlington, Vermont, earlier this evening had 4 inches of snowfall in a 1-hour period of time, and even a couple of hours later it was still snowing at about 2 inches per hour. And then as we head farther on toward the west, again a close-up look around South Bend, down to Indianapolis and Charleston, up through Pittsburgh and up through Cleveland. Let's show you what's going to happen. Well, our low pressure area looked like this, following this track heading north. Now what's going to happen is the upper level low is going to sit here, and the surface low is going to find itself right underneath the upper level low, and as a result there's not going to be much ability for that surface low to move, so we'll just sit there with a big low, not moving, lots of wind, and the lake effect snow. Around that low pressure area we're going to see the warmer air coming in on the front side, but on the back side the colder air dropping south. As a matter of fact, look at some of that cold air coming in with northerly winds, teens to 20s below zero. Some of those specific numbers look like this, from 15 in Chicago to 11 below up here in International Falls, and the wind chills brutally cold even into the deep south. We'll tell you where all this is headed coming right up.
The next few days will be quite active as a vigorous winter storm takes aim at the northeast. To find out how long the bad weather will last, check out the 5-day forecast next.
Tomorrow, wind chills could be below 0 tomorrow. The snow and slush tonight have frozen over, so if you do go out, please watch for icy conditions both tonight and tomorrow. Action radar shows the storm moving out of our area today. It is now lashing New England. We could see just a few leftover flurries later tonight. But the coldest air of the season is going to arrive in our area tomorrow. Very cold Arctic air. It'll be accompanied, of course, by strong winds, and it's going to persist for a few days. Looking at Sky 6, we see the Schuylkill Expressway at the City Avenue Bridge. Let's look at the numbers for this Saturday. 36 was the high at 8:30 this morning, 25 the low. Present numbers, 30 degrees, and the wind blowing at 15 miles an hour from the west gives us a wind chill now of 11 degrees. Windy and very cold tonight, the low of 24, but wind chills could get near 0 or below. More of the same tomorrow. Cold, blustery, times of clouds and some sunshine, but the wind chills could be between 10 and 20 below 0 tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. Still cold, not as windy though Monday and Tuesday.
But it's hard.
Wednesday and Thursday when we get a mild break with some sunshine and temperatures above freezing for a few minutes those days anyway. But again, very cold and windy tomorrow and tomorrow night, dangerously cold. Finally tonight, some folks like to spend snowy days outside, others like to curl up in front of the TV. We found one in Rittenhouse Square today. You've seen Frosty the Snowman on TV. This could be Frosty watching TV. Instead of leaving their snowman or snow person with nothing to do, these folks gave him a snow television, which of course will help him pass the hours until the sun appears or they both melt, whichever comes first. The $1 Million Movie is next on Channel 6, Police Academy 2 tonight. Action News returns at 9 in the morning with Rick Williams, Flora Pastorero, and Dave Frankel. Now for Phil Andrews and the entire Action News team, I'm Rob Jennings. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Channel. Weather you can always turn to for accurate, dependable weather forecasts 24 hours a day.
Up to 2 feet of snow and at times winds gusting higher than 70 miles an hour. That's what we have been watching this evening across portions of the Northeast as our first winter storm has plowed through parts of the Northeast and New England. Good evening, I'm Terry Smith live here in the Forecast Center, and as we check in first on radar, most of what you're seeing here is snowfall, and as you can see, the heaviest snow on into Maine and New Hampshire. We've got a little bit of rain down by the coast, but again, temperatures are generally cold enough that we continue to see snowfall. Snow not so bad right now, but as we head back toward the Great Lakes, we are beginning to see signs that the lake effect snows may be picking up around Elmira and Binghamton. Also a little bit light snow occurring around Syracuse and eastern New York. That's where we've seen some of the heaviest snow so far today. Some areas seeing 20 inches of snowfall. It's going to continue. It's only going to get worse tomorrow, believe it or not, and that's what we're expecting to happen. And because we are expecting that, we've sent our live crew on into Syracuse, New York. And joining us there is Jill Brown, who still looks cold and kind of windy up there, girl.
Yeah, you know, Terry, this is a typical winter day in Syracuse, New York. About 4 or 5 inches of snow, wind chill in the single digits, and I'm guessing now maybe a little bit below 0. But of course, with this storm so far, the really heavy stuff has been to the east, Albany to Utica. We've had many reports of 1 foot to 1.5 feet of snow. We're kind of on the fringes here, but we think we're going to see more, and Jeff Morrow was out earlier this afternoon, and most people he talked to thought the worst is yet to come.
These are typical winter scenes in Syracuse, New York. But so far, the winter of 1995 has been anything but typical.
It's been a great winter this year. Everybody's really enjoyed it. There's been very little snow. It's been much warmer than normal.
All that changed early this morning when the first big snowstorm of the season moved in. Travel was difficult for some, but by midday, many people were out and about taking care of business or heeding the warning of more bad weather on the way. Whatever the outcome, road crews will be ready for the worst.
If there's unnecessary travel, we'd like you to stay at home and stay off the road so our plows and our salt trucks can clear up the road so that everybody will be ready to go to work on Monday.
Well, we've definitely seen the wind shift today. This morning it was coming from the northeast. Now it's northwest and it's considerably stronger. It does seem to be snowing a little bit harder now, so we should begin to see that lake effect kick in, and it's going to be a brutal day out here tomorrow.
I was going to say, it looks like gusty winds and lake effect snows will be the big problems tomorrow. So what are your plans for tomorrow?
Well, we plan to kind of watch the radar. Of course, we'll be talking to you all back at the Weather Channel, and we'll just have to kind of watch to see where the band's set up, and then we're going to try and get there and hopefully not get stuck on our way there. We're right next to Interstate 81 here, and folks here tell us that a lot of times that will close down when they get the really heavy lake effect snow. So traveling may be a problem tomorrow, but we plan to see a lot more heavy snow.
All right, Jill Brown. Well, we'll check back in with you guys tomorrow and stay warm and get a good night's rest, and we'll see how things fare tomorrow. Thanks a lot. All right, well, those were the scenes in New York today, but also along some of the coastal areas in the Northeast. We had heavy snow and problems related to that. First, we'll head you into Boston, where the snow started in the morning hours but picked up in the afternoon, and as much as 6 inches fell. The forecast for tonight calls for some rain and some snow. Temperatures are going to remain below freezing for the next several days, so many of the roads could remain a little bit difficult to travel on. Not only is the snowstorm affecting New England, but also parts of the Northeast, including New Jersey. This is the first big snowstorm of the year for the Garden State. Driving has been a bit on the tricky side for some of those highways. And in Secaucus, the snowplows are out in force as people go out and about on their business on a rather snowy Saturday. Well, we'll continue to monitor the snow situation in the Northeast, and we'll be checking in on our forecast in a moment. But first, some other problems around the country, in part related to the wind, and we go back to the studio with Sharon Resulton.
Thanks, Terry. That's right. You know, that same storm that Terry just showed you has really had some far-reaching effects. While all those folks in the north are cleaning up from the snow, some people in Florida found themselves cleaning up from severe weather. South of Fort Myers in Collier County, there were reports of a waterspout as well as a possible tornado. A number of mobile homes were damaged and several power lines were down. Following the frontal passage that triggered the storms, the winds gusted up to 50 miles per hour across that area. It has been a very active weather day from the northeast down into the southeast, all the way into Florida, as that video proves. Let's check things out as we find a lot of jet stream energy coming into play here. Even around Atlanta, Georgia, a burst of some snow showers. Not really anything to stick to the ground, but certainly very impressive for this area. And we find an intensifying low pressure system continue to track right on up the coast. Along with that, it's drawing in more Atlantic moisture and actually some more warm air across that region. Cold air already in place behind it. And if that's not enough, you know, Jill was talking about how she felt like those wind chills were below zero. She was right. Current temperature there around 20 degrees, winds clocking up to around 16 miles per hour, and wind chills indeed in the single digits below zero, and more of that frigid Arctic air poised to move on through. And as it works its way on in with the westerly winds that they have there now, eventually it's going to mean some more snow setting up off the lakes. Let's check things out now. We'll take a look at the snow history map here, and this gives us a good idea as the system pulled on through just where the heaviest snow managed to fall. And you can see the band of gray and white indicating anywhere from 6 to 12 inches, and in the white areas over a foot of snowfall reported. Areas in the lighter colors here, the pinks and purples as they may appear on the TV screen, also seeing enough treacherous snow to certainly slow things down on some of the highways. There's the area of low pressure now. Boston reporting some drizzle or some light rain mixing with some snow. We do expect a change over back to snow, but we do not expect to see any more accumulations in Boston. That's because the bulk of the moisture has already passed up to your north. What I want you to notice with this map is that the isobars, the lines of equal pressure here, are very tightly packed, very windy conditions, and it's drawing the cold air out of Canada and then winding it back in across the Great Lakes. And that's why we think we may be talking about some problem areas with bands, very stubborn bands of precipitation setting themselves up across the lakes late tonight into tomorrow. Again, the moisture pressing on up through Portland, on up into central areas of Maine, the Green and White Mountains, and then back out into the Adirondacks of New York. Albany getting clipped with a good bit of snow there. We'll put this one in motion as well. It looks like we may be seeing perhaps some snow bands establishing themselves here around the southern tier from Elmira back out to just west of Binghamton and also east and south of Syracuse. We'll have to keep a close eye on Interstate 81 there. May see some more accumulations. And from Cleveland back down toward the Canton Akron area, seeing constant bands of snow here. Also some pretty good bands moving on in across the Michiana area. Close on in on northeastern Ohio. There's actually 3 bands. One working on through Geauga and Ashtabula counties, a second one through Cleveland back down toward the Canton Akron area, and then a third one back down toward Mansfield, and all of those have have the potential for producing quite a bit of snowfall if they are persistent. It looks like they are setting themselves up to be just that. Here's your windy weather as we look at the marine warnings, gale and storm warnings all along the coast, back down to Jupiter Inlet as we head down to coastal sections of Florida. Elsewhere, the nation fairly quiet with the exception of this storm. Certainly the west coast looking good, but temperatures certainly play a role in the weather up to come as we see that colder air in the east moving across the Great Lakes.
The snow is still falling in upstate New York, where the Weather Channel's crew is located. But earlier today, it caused havoc all around New York City.
Shoveling, scraping, sliding, and sloshing. For those who thought winter weather wouldn't come, an icy reminder of what this season is all about. Slippery roads led to several accidents around the area, and wind-whipped waters battered parts of the shoreline and flooded parts of coastal Connecticut. In the city, snowplows were out in force, and most roads were reported to be just wet and slushy by mid-afternoon. Kennedy and LaGuardia airports were closed most of the morning. By afternoon, JFK had 2 runways open, and by early evening had returned to full service. By evening, LaGuardia had reopened, but there were still numerous delays. Here at Newark International Airport, the storm left 2,000 travelers stranded this morning, up to 1,000 in Terminal C alone.
They just keep canceling and canceling our flights.
But tonight, wet roads changing to ice is the focus of concern.
Roads this evening, even if they're cleared, are probably going to be dangerous, and dangerous into the morning hours.
More snow in the offing as we head on into the eastern Great Lakes region. Again, get the wraparound here from that low pressure system and the cold air pulling out of Canada across the warmer lakes, and that will spell some more snowfall. Well, speaking of the cold air, just to give you an idea, if you're heading off to services for tomorrow or anything you plan on doing outside, temperatures are certainly going to be below normal across much of the east, but above normal to the west. If your plans were to maybe hop a plane and head out to LA, hey, good idea. Look at what it's like out here. Beautiful weather. Temperatures warmer than normal at Huntington Beach, and folks taking advantage of the high surf there. As you can see, a lot of sunshine. Warm temperatures, well, I'll tell you how warm. Mid-70s along the beach and up to the 90s around the LA Civic Center. So some pretty nice weather there. In contrast, we're going to keep the wintertime scenario here in the Northeast and the Great Lakes throughout the day on Sunday. Keep it tuned here tomorrow. We'll let you know how some of these roadways are faring and just how much snow is piling up and lee of the lakes. Rain will also work its way on in the coastal areas on into northern California, and looks like the greatest amounts of moisture though are really going to be in the east in the form of the snow, where some spots could pick up locally 2 feet as you add on the additional moisture to what they've already got. And temperatures quite cold as we head right on through Sunday. Very cool here from the northern reaches of the nation on up into the northeast, even down around Atlanta, some pretty chilly air even on into Monday, while in contrast the southwest remains rather warm. Generally we'll start to warm things up. We'll bring the 30s up toward Detroit by Wednesday and even some 40s toward Columbus, Ohio by Thursday. So we are looking at a bit of a warm up there. Snow squalls will be rather persistent in the northeast on Monday. Things starting to wind down by Tuesday. And once we get this system out of our system, we can expect to see some windy conditions across parts of the east, but generally we lose a lot of the moisture, and it looks like things are actually going to kind of calm down a bit as we head on into Thursday. So I think maybe they can finally put the shovels away in the east.
That would probably be nice.
Yeah.
Well, we will rejoin our crew in Syracuse tomorrow. In the meantime, we'll keep you posted on what's happening in your area, our local forecast, and we'll head overseas next.
How do they do it? Rent-A-Wreck delivers real value. They rent quality new and used cars, trucks, and vans. Vehicles of many makes and models with proven reliability. They give you a ride with pride, all for an amazing price. Each Rent-A-Wreck is owned and operated by someone that lives in your town, so you're treated like a neighbor, not a number. How does Rent-A-Wreck do it? It must be magic.
For real value in renting a car, truck, or van, call the Rent-A-Wreck location nearest you. Mention the Rent-A-Wreck family to receive